Fantazius Mallare considered himself mad because he was unable to behold, in the meaningless gesturings of time, space, and evolution, a dramatic little pantomime adroitly centered about the routine of his existence. He was a silent-looking man with black hair and an aquiline nose. His eyes were lifeless because they paid no homage to the world outside him. When he was 35 years old, he lived alone high above a busy part of the town. He was a recluse. His black hair that fell in a slant across his forehead and the rigidity of his eyes gave him the appearance of a somnambulist. He found life unnecessary and submitted to it without curiosity. His ideas were profoundly simple. The excitement of his neighborhood, his city, his country, and his world left him unmoved. He found no diversion in interpreting them. A friend had once asked him what he thought of democracy. This was during a great war being waged in its behalf. Mallare replied, "Democracy is the honeymoon of stupidity." There lived with him, as a servant, a little monster whom he called Goliath, and who was a dwarfed and paralytic negro. Goliath's age was unknown. His deformities gave him the air of an old man, and his hunchback made him seem too massive for a boy. But in studying him, Mallare had concluded that he was a boy. Goliath had been one of the first symptoms of Mallare's madness. He had brought the little monster home from an amusement park one summer night. Goliath had been standing doubled up, his pipe-stem arms hanging like a baboon's, his enlarged black head lifted and his furious eyes staring at a wheel of fortune. When they left the confetti electrics of the park behind, Mallare spoke to the dwarf, whose wrinkled hand he was holding. "If you come home with me, I will make you a servant, and I will give you a fine red suit to wear. Also, I will call you Goliath for no reason at all, since I am at war with reason." Goliath said nothing, but sat staring happily out the window of an automobile as they rode home. The home of Fantazius Mallare was filled with evidences of his past. There were clay and bronze figures and canvases covered with paintings. These had been the work of his hands. It was to be seen that he had once given himself with violence to the creation of images, and for this reason he was still known among a few people as an artist. In the days when he had worked to create images, Mallare had been alive with derisions. He desired to give them outline, but the desire went from him. The brilliant fancies of his thought began slowly to bore him. The astounding images that still bowed themselves into his mind became like a procession of mendicants seeking alms from him. He folded his hands and with an interested smile watched his genius die. At the time of this curious tragedy, Mallare was 30. He kept a journal in which he wrote infrequently. There was in this journal little of interest. Apparently, he had amused himself during his youth, jotting down items of preposterous unimportance. "I saw a man with a red face," he would write one week. The next he would add a line. "There are 785 normal strides between the lamp post and my front door." Turning a page a month later, he would meticulously set down the date, the hour of the day, the direction of the wind, and under it write out, "I have a stomach ache. from eating peaches. The journal bristled with innocuous informations. An acquaintance of the period, interested in Mallare's work as an artist, smiled and commented, "These are no doubt symbols, a psychological code in which you have translated great inner moments." Mallare answered, "On the contrary, they are the only thoughts I have had in which I could detect no reason. It has amused me to put down with great care the few banalities which have normalized my days. They are very precious to me, although they have no value in themselves. It is the ability to think such absurdities as you might have read that has kept me from suicide. The will to live is no more than the hypnotism of banalities. We keep alive only by maintaining, despite our intelligence, an enthusiasm for the things which are of no consequence or interest to us." That I saw a man with a red face aroused me in a gentle curiosity lacking in words or emotion. The desire to live is compounded of an infinity of such gentle curiosities, which remain entirely outside of reason. This never satisfied and almost non-existent curiosity we have toward things masquerades under the intimidating guise of the law of self-preservation. Man is at the mercy of his life, since, his intelligence perceiving its monotony and absurdity, he still clings to it, fascinated by the accumulated rhythm of its faces, impressions, and events which he despises. It is a form of hypnosis, and these words I have written in my journal are the absurdities by which life seduced me from abandoning it. I am grateful to them, and I have therefore preserved them carefully. The history of Mallare's madness, however, is to be found in this journal. There are 2 empty pages that stare significantly. The empty pages are a lapse. It was during this lapse that Mallare smiled with interest at the spectacle of his disintegration. There follows, then, a suddenly excited outburst, undated. In it, the beginnings of his madness pirouette, like tentative dancers. Perhaps the greatest miracle in that which enables a man to tolerate life, the passage starts, which enables him to embrace its illusions and translate its monstrous incoherence into delightful, edifying patterns. It is the miracle of sanity. To stand unquestioning before mysteries, to remain an undisturbed part of chaos. Ah, what an adjustment! Content and even elate amid the terrible circle of unknowns. Behold in this heroic stupidity of the sane, a stupidity which has already outlived the gods. Man, alas, is the only animal who hasn't known enough to die. His undeveloped senses have permitted him to survive in the manner of the oyster. The mysteries, dangers, and delights of the sea do not exist for the oyster. Its senses are not stirred by typhoons, impressed by earthquakes, or annoyed by its own insignificance. Similarly, man. The complacent egomania of man, his tyrannical indifferences, his little list of questions and answers, which suffices for his wisdom. These are the chief phenomena or symptoms of his sanity. He alone has survived the ages by means of a series of ludicrous adjustments, until today he walks on 2 legs. The crowning absurdity of an otherwise logical nature. He has triumphed by specializing in his weaknesses and ensuring their survival, by disputing the simple laws of biology with interminable banalities labeled from age to age as religions, philosophies, and laws. unable, despite his shiftiness, to lie the fact of his mortality and decomposition out of existence, he has satisfied his mania for survival by the invention of souls. And behold him, spectacle of spectacles, a chatty little tradesman, in an immemorable hat drifting good-naturedly through a nightmare. It is for this ability to exist unnaturally that he has invented the adjective sane. But here and there in the streets of the cities walk the damned, creatures denied by the miracle of sanity, and who move bewilderedly through their scene, staring at the flying days, as at the fragments of another world. They are conscious of themselves only as vacuums within which life is continually expiring. Alas, the damned! From the depths of their non-existence, they contemplate their fellow man and perceive him a dwarf prostrate, forever before solacing arrangements of words, an homunculus riding vaingloriously on the tiny river of ink that flows between monstrous yesterdays and monstrous tomorrows, a baboon strutting through a mirage. The history of Mallare's madness begins thus, and the pages continue. The writing on them seems at glance a part of decoration in black and white. The letters are beautifully formed and shaded. They resemble laboring serpents, dainty pagodas, vines bearing strange fruits, and capricious bits of sculpture. To the end, Mallare fancied himself aware of the drift and nuance of his madness. Its convolutions seemed neither incomprehensible nor mysterious to him. An intolerable loathing for life, an illuminated contempt for men and women, had long ago taken possession of him. His philosophic attitude was the product of his egoism. He felt himself the center of life, and it became his nature to revolt against all evidence of life that existed outside himself. In this manner he grew to hate, or rather to feel an impotent disgust for whatever was contemporary. When his normality abandoned him, he avoided a greater tragedy. In a manner, it was not Mallare who became insane. It was his point of view that went mad. Although there are passages in the journal that escape coherence, the greater part of the entries are simple almost to naivety. They reveal an intellect able to adjust itself without complex uprootings to the phenomena engaging its energies. The first concrete evidence of the loathing for life that was to result in its own annihilation appears in a passage beginning abruptly. Most of all, I like the trees, when they are empty of leaves. Their wooden grimaces must aggravate the preciously featured houses of the town. People who see my work for the first time grow indignant and call me sick and artificial. Belletist critics. But so are these trees. People think of art in terms of symmetry. With a most amazing conceit, they have decided upon their own contours of their bodies as the standards of beauty. Therefore, I am pleased to look at trees, or anything that grows, unhandicapped by the mediocratizing force of reason, and note how contorted such things are. Mallare's point of view toward his world, the attitude that went mad, was nothing more involved than his egoism. His infatuation with self was destined to arrive at a peak on whose height he became overcome with a dizziness